Welcome back to a new episode of Ashes to Apex. Today I have a very special guest, Jeremy Bran. Jeremy is an entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur for the last 15 years. He owns Bran Construction and is a co-owner in Bran Real Estate. But Jeremy has had some interesting callings in his life over the last year or so, and that's taken him in a completely new direction. And we're going to talk a little bit about this on this podcast. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joshua. Pleasure for the invite. And happy to be here. Happy to see what comes next. You're leading the show, man. And so I'm just here to kind of just see if there's maybe something that my story may resonate with some of your listeners today.
Absolutely. Why don't you start out by telling us just a little bit about your businesses and start with a little bit of background, and then we can start talking about that transition that you're looking to make.
Yeah. So my life has been filled with different transitions. So my wife and I, we met in college. She had actually already she already started in high school a photography business that she was doing family and kids. And as she was kind of going through college in the North Dallas area, her business started exploding, and we were going to a small business school there. And I knew one day I was kind of going for a business management degree, had a little bit of an inkling like, hey, one day I want to own my own business, be a business owner. And my wife and I are at the time, we were obviously just dating, and it became pretty serious. And I saw her business just like skyrocket, and she had to eventually say, hey, I got to put a pause on the school to focus on the business, which was awesome. And so once we kind of graduated college, I was working at a bank, and just as driving to work, I was like, man, there has to be something more to this than punching a clock. I had this kind of drive to eventually kind of start something, to be a pioneer, more of a builder of something. And so I kind of gave this crazy idea to my wife that she reluctantly agreed to, was to, hey, why don't we open a wedding photography business? You transition from the kids and family to wedding photography. And so we did that. We kind of plunged in. I put my notice in with the company, and it did not start the way we wanted, because we had no wedding portfolio. We had no true experience in that realm. All my wife had was all the baby pictures, family, little kid pictures. But so the first 4 months, we couldn't book anything. We had to end up moving in with our parents to where we kind of figure out what's going to happen with the business. But through the grace of God, we kind of developed this little marketing strategy, and it boomed. And so we did that for, I'd probably say about maybe close to 4 years together. So we were very successful booking 30 plus weddings. And then came to another transition part of my life where we had this my wife was kind of dealing with a lot of the pressures and anxiety that the wedding industry brought as a wedding photographer. And it really started affecting her kind of mental health and our marriage. And so we came to the point where hey, we're never going to be able to start a family because we're booking so many weddings, and we were 2 years in advance. And so by the grace of God, we kind of came together and just had this alignment hey, we need to start a family, and we need to, unfortunately, close the business. And so that left me searching, okay, God, how do I provide for my family? And my father-in-law said, hey, have you ever thought about going into real estate? He had just saw a sign for Keller Williams, and I said, well, maybe. And yeah, I went there, had an interview, and just man, actually, this sounds pretty cool. Well, come to find out, my brother, he had started his construction development business in 2008. And so he had already been working in kind of real estate capacity, building for other owners in Houston. And he finally kind of came back and said, hey, to an investor, and say, hey, I want to go after these types of multifamily projects. And so our companies kind of intersected at this point where he was now look for assets and commercial multifamily assets in Houston. And I had kind of just been cutting my teeth for about 6 to 8 months in real estate and kind of figuring out, hey, is this something I still want to do? Because residential was not really doing it for me. Selling homes, I knew there had to be something bigger, and our businesses kind of collided, and I started cold calling, sourcing off market multifamily properties in Montrose, and quickly our business, it grew. It skyrocketed from that point, and us working together and building investors and renovating the properties and building a property management company. And then kind of from there, that kind of transitioned as we grew that portfolio to eventually when the market kind of started turning in 2022 or really 2021, where rates slowly were kind of trickling up and values had just gotten so high that it didn't make sense to pencil anything anymore on an investment. And so we said, hey, well, we know construction. We've been doing this for our brother since 2008. We've been doing our own property for the last 10 years. And so, hey, maybe it's something that we need to start looking at other building for owners. And that's kind of how Brand Construction was formed. My brother and I as a co-owner together, where we said, hey, we have this team that we built in-house of skilled workers that we could utilize to basically go build for other clients and obviously keep people employed. And so that's kind of what we did. We, for the last, probably say 2 years, we've been focusing primarily as a sub GC, general contractor, building restaurants for pharmacies, all different type of retail all over Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, Oklahoma. And so we've been doing that for the last couple years. And so that's kind of my transition now. It kind of brings me to now this point now in my calling for Jumper. But if you want to comment,
yeah. So you're going through. You went through several transitions, and at any point were you worried about, is this going to work, or are you going to, I mean, as entrepreneurs, we go through ups and downs, and my biggest worry sometimes is like, am I going to be able to provide for my family? Am I going to fail? We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. What was it like going through those transitions?
Yeah, it was definitely, is the battle. The mind is definitely a battle. You got your flesh, you got your own, like, man, I can just put my head down and I can figure this out on my own, in my own strengths and my own ability. But then sometimes those results don't happen in a way quick enough to where it basically, oh, well, maybe I don't have this. So you start questioning yourself that, man, was this a good transition that I made? Was this a good decision? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Because right now at the beginning, because all those transitions that I've gone through, the first 4 or 5 months did not go as planned at all. And so you start questioning like, hey, but I found that God has given me this sense of perseverance. And to persevere, that's as entrepreneurs, that's like, has to be built in your DNA as an entrepreneur, because we is a 100% guarantee that we are going to face challenges. We're going to face difficulty. We're going to face walls. And even in our face, like the Bible says, that Jesus says, take heart. Like we will face challenge, we'll face difficulties, but we have overcome the world. And so I try to apply that same kind of spiritual, biblical understanding to my business as well. Like, okay, Lord, this is a problem that I don't know how I'm going to make it through, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to work it out. But a lot of times I lean into my own strength and not trusting God. And so that leads me to this, the pressure, the stress, can I provide for my family? Am I going to make it? So
do you feel like when you first started your entrepreneurial journey, like how would you describe your relationship with God?
I would say it was more of, so I grew up from a first generation immigrant. My dad's from El Salvador. My parents lived basically paycheck to paycheck in a sense, mediocre, never really striving for greatness or anything big, no big visions in their life. And so that's how I kind of lived most of my early adulthood. is not, it's having a small mindedness. And, but it was kind of this point where I needed to kind of break away from kind of the upbringing and the patterns that my parents had kind of instilled in me, and say, okay, Lord, I need to find my faith and my footing and my foundation with you, not based on what my parents had taught me and what I'd gone and grew up in learning in Sunday school. And so I would say probably my faith was at the very beginning of a kind of a rebirth of my faith, as I was kind of really finding out, okay, God, my whole childhood, my parents taught me this is who you are, your character, but I want to know who your character is. And he started sharing with me like all of his great love for me. And that's ultimately like my 20s. That's where I found like the love of Christ rather than the fear of God that had grown up in a legalistic church, legalistic home, about checking the boxes, having the appearance that your life is all together, but really deep down inside, like you're just a Pharisee. That's what you are. And so that was a really big part of my journey at the very beginning. Is like I was in infancy, really in my faith, and who I knew God was.
Yeah, and so you talked about going through these trials and then persevering, and having to go through it and then back up and then through it, down again and back up. I mean, what would you say that going through those challenges did it ever make you feel less confident in your faith, or do you feel like it made your faith stronger?
Definitely made my faith stronger. It's like I know people say, "Oh, the school of hard knocks and stuff," but man, it's if you want to test your faith, man, just go start something. Go start something, and God will either you will lean on Him or you will lean on yourself. And when you lean on Him, He will order your steps. And so yeah, just going through the different ups and downs, like there were so many times where I just wanted to quit. Yeah. But I just like right now I can look back and say, from a more spiritual understanding, that just a Jesus based man, he could have quit on the cross. He could have said, man, I'm not doing this. This is not worth it. He could have easily done that, but yeah, he still endured. And he still persevered, because what was the ultimate goal is, to bring about God's plan and his life. But when I was going through it, I can't say that I would do that. That would be me lying. It was more just kind of like, as an entrepreneur, you figure it out. Yeah, figure it out, man. Sometimes you lean on God, and sometimes you lean on your own understanding. But there was a lot of times where I leaned on my own strength, and I made some poor decisions that affected me, my family, but God's grace is so abounding that He still allowed me to stay where I'm at planning.
Yeah. So when when you were going through these trials and you were carrying the weight on your shoulders, and you said you made some bad decisions. At what point did you feel like, we carry the weight on our shoulder, and we try to control and hold on to that control, right? Like, we've got to fix this. I feel like this, especially with men, like, oh yeah, we always feel like we need to fix something. Yeah. You know what I mean? I guess what brought you to a place where you felt like you were surrendering, like where you had, you know what I mean? Was it anything specific, or?
Yeah. Typically my most areas we grow, and I probably say it probably wasn't just for me as well. I think it's for all believers. When we grow in our faith, it's typically through suffering. And it was during the time of suffering where the business, the income was not coming in. Now we're, some of my employees, we're going to have to be a little bit late on our payroll. You're not being able to make payroll. And so now all that pressure of like, I thought I had it under control, And so some of my mistakes that I made is I, instead of relying and trusting in God, I say, okay, I got to fix this. And so the way I'm going to fix this, I'm going to get a really bad loan because I need some cash. Right. And so I made some bad financial decisions that were high interest loans that I got just to basically cash flow us. And at first it seemed fine. Like, hey, okay, got the loan. We're able to sustain everything.
Cash injection. We're just going to outpace this loan and the interest, that kind of thing.
And then ultimately, Lord, God if like the faucet turned off.
Yeah.
It happened in, end of 2024 in December. We did a project basically kind of went sideways. And we lost our shirt on that project because unfortunately our estimator and our PM who bid the project, fortunately we didn't do enough oversight and basically grossly underbid the project. And so of course our client is like, nope, we're not doing any change. They gave some financial change orders to us to help us, but it wasn't enough. We were too small of a company. And so I thought like, okay, well, let's get a loan. And that's helpful. Well, the high interest, eventually the cash flows weren't keeping up. And eventually we ended up getting kicked off that project. Now I'm left with a loan that basically I can't afford because I don't have the cash flow. And so now I'm at risk of basically going into default.
Right.
So it was a compounding things because again, it was a lack of basically a trust in God that led to this point where my hands were now, God, I made a mess. I made a mess of this.
Yeah.
How am I going to fix it? And basically, God just brought me to my knees. He's like, Jeremy, you've been trying to control. You are such an entrepreneur and a fix-it that you will find every way, even if the consequences, because you'll say, oh, we'll figure this out later, but I need to solve this problem now. And the consequences will catch up. And that is how I honestly lived a lot of my real estate early on in my career when it come to paying taxes.
Yeah.
What do most real estate developers do and brokers? We have these large transactions. You literally close a deal so you can pay your taxes for the previous year.
Yeah.
You hold it off. Because I was making a killing. And so I could do that. But then once the faucet turns off, okay, now you've created these bad habits.
Yeah.
And so now you're living with consequences.
Hey, I just want to say real quick that I appreciate not only your honesty, but like the vulnerability in this scenario. Because first of all, it's really hard to talk. I mean, especially when we're as entrepreneurs, we have teams, we have people. Like it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that hey, I made a mistake. It was all because, and you're taking complete ownership of that. Like that's hard to do, and I can only imagine what you had to go through to just get to that point. So like, just want you to know, like, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through the same exact scenarios, not in construction, but in other ways, I definitely have made mistakes, developed bad habits, had to fix those habits. I've had to learn the hard way my entire life. Well, just put it that way, Huff. And, it's because I am impulsive and I do jump. And that's probably what makes me an entrepreneur is because I'll just jump into it, be like, all right, let's do it, sink or swim, whatever, like, and it's like, I work better if I have pressure.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, I almost have to put myself in this really difficult situation to perform, it's like, then I need pressure. I need to be able to, I need to be panicking a little bit to make this work. It's the only way. But I've actually found that mindset has changed with my faith in God.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, I've given control over to God and I feel this peace. Yeah. And it's like this clarity. Yeah. As my mind's not like all, and I can just sit in that peace. And I don't know, it's something about that piece that just brings this satisfaction. I don't mean this, hey, you know what? If I do lose this client, I'm still going to be okay.
Yep.
It's this gratitude that I've learned to develop, right? Because I can say, hey, I get so caught up in society's expectations for what I need to be and what this world expects out of me, that I forget that I got this beautiful family at home. And it doesn't really matter where we live. It doesn't matter like what car we drive or what we do. Like all that is just material possession. What matters is that am I building, am I growing my kids in this in their faith and in their am I building and growing them to be good men? You know, like all these things I overlook because I'm so caught up in, oh, I've got to make sure that they live here and they have this place and they have these luxuries and these had, you know, that's really what the world teaches us.
Yep.
Especially here in America. You know, that's what we are work really hard, you know, anyway, I'll keep rambling off, but you know, I identify with that. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was, the Holy Spirit kind of like started after all this, like it was just the failure was setting in, and it was coming real. I started journaling my prayers and just started seeking God. And as I'm journaling this one time, the Holy Spirit was so clear to me. He said, Jeremy, you've done it your way. Why don't you try my way now?
Yeah.
And that was like the moment where like, it's like Abraham, basically, he had a son that God had promised to him, but yet he was willing to say, Lord, not what I want to do, but what you want to do. And I'm going to lay down my son to you. And I'm going to trust you that you know what you're doing. And so that's what I did. I started laying down all the things in my life. I can say that I've never been an alcoholic, but there were things that I would run to for like my comfort.
Right.
Like alcohol, like was one of them, dude. Like we grind as business owners Monday through Friday until 5 o'clock mostly.
Yeah.
And we just are just constantly going at us. We're always solving people's problems, always have the pressures on us. And then we can't wait for Friday. We can't wait for Saturday because that's the opportunity for us to rest. But what I was resting in alcohol. I was resting in say, I have to have this margarita. I have to escape my problem just for this 48 hours and just allow this weekend to go through and just, I don't think about anything of work. And so the Holy Spirit, again, another thing he wanted me to lay down is alcohol. And so to this day, I've been 8 months, I have not touched a lick of alcohol. And I remember that first month, it was so hard because it was like my anniversary and my birthday.
Yeah.
Certain places I want to go to. And God said, Jeremy, when you're stressed, when you need a place to rest, come rest in me. Instead of resting in the things that are so temporary, that are fleeting, that never satisfy. And so those are one of the things that God said, hey, lay that down to me. And I've been living this life the last, I probably say now 9 months of just complete, total surrender. And just like you said earlier, there's like a peace that just comes over you that is just like, wow, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And the enemy can bring condemnation and all that and say, hey, if you only listen a long time, you wouldn't have this problem. We could have avoided that hurt to that person or this, whatever. But we can say, okay, Lord, just like the prodigal, wasted everything away, but the Father's arms are always open wide. No matter when you make that decision, okay, I'm going to turn, I'm going to repent from this, doing it this way, God. I'm going to trust and I'm going to do it your way. So,
yeah. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I went through a similar process. I mean, when I felt at my lowest, broken, not knowing what to do, I remember just the anxiety. And I am an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 3 years. I also I quit Adderall the year prior to that because I was consuming 4 to 5, maybe 6. I don't know. It was 30 milligram things. I would just pop whenever I felt like I needed to. And got to a point where I was just a zombie all the time. And I remember when it was 2021 and and my son, Levi, was born. And I remember I went to the hospital And my wife is, like I was with my wife where she was giving birth to Levi, and her mom was there with us too. And I remember, I went to go grab something and I bent over and my bag fell over and my bottle of pills just fell on the ground while she was giving birth. And I remember like picking them up real quick and, putting them away and just feeling so like ashamed of myself. And a week after he was born and came here, I really thought about like how much time I'd already missed with my other son, and my other two sons, just the feeling of shame and guilt was just overcoming me because it was like, how much time have I spent just staring at this computer screen, trying to work, trying to build, trying to grow, spinning my wheels, not going anywhere. And I grabbed that bottle of pills and I walked over to the bathroom and told my wife to come in with me, and I pulled it out and I just dumped him in the toilet. Like, wow. And just in that moment, just dumped in the toilet. Well, then I thought, okay, it was while I was on the pills. I didn't think that, I didn't feel like I had an alcohol problem because I was on the pills all the time. So the alcohol didn't drink that much. Well, then I started drinking, and it was just like in that year, that grew out of control, and I was drinking like every night, and anyway, that led to me quitting drinking. But when I quit drinking, remember this anxiety, just this crazy anxiety. I had journal just to keep my mind straight. Yeah. And journaling really helps. Yeah. Yeah, it really does. Sorry, we're talking about your story right now. Very man, but you're just making me think about, my own journey. It's so similar in so many ways. Yeah. The things that we go through as entrepreneurs, it's like, I don't know how you do it without God. Yes. I really don't. I don't know how, but some people just seem to get it, and they just don't have any issues. They just
that we know of because they keep it hidden,
right? But I mean, for me, it was always an up and down roller coaster. Yeah, it's like I'm always learning new things about me, myself, and about God.
Yeah,
is that so? Actually, that's a good question. What have you learned about God's character through your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, good. Yeah. Man, wow, that's a definitely a deep one. I'd probably say that, man, it's been like ultimately like God's. There's a thing I've always had is in the Bible about God's hand, and you got God's basically hand, like his hand of blessing, his hand of protection. But then also I'm a person that I thrive on like just kind of analogies, kind of like little visions, little pictures to kind of like help me give a more just like more like parables, like Jesus would talk in parables, like the Holy Spirit God gives me these things. And he gave me this one recently about how like you and I, like when we our kids go into like a grocery store or Walmart, we get them out of the car, we walk them through the parking lot. We always want to, hey, they don't want to hold their hands a lot of time. They want to feel independent. And so we kind of put our hand behind their back and we kind of like slowly just like kind of shove them along and kind of just like we're just kind of like just keeping our hand behind them to that way we can have our hand on them while we lead them and they go through the traffic and to making sure that they're not getting hurt or anything. And I felt ultimately that is how God has been on my life. There are so many things that like I should be divorced. I should be probably an addict. I should be so broken and lost. But God's hand every single time has kind of been behind me, just kind of leading me, even when my dumb decisions, even when I want to go stray over here, he has been protecting me and he has been
when you're
sheltering. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like it's been like awesome to like realize that, but in the moment you don't realize that because you're so consumed with solving the problem, figuring it out, or being just trapped in basically whatever the thing that's giving you the dopamine fix and hit, that you don't even realize, man, God has been there all the time, the whole time. And that's what I've really learned these last couple years, and in my journey, that I've been more like pursuing God in my quiet time, just setting aside those first fruits of the day, rather than just giving him my leftovers. And so, yeah, I think that's ultimately the character, is that God is his hand has been up on my life, just leading me. But he didn't have to. He didn't have to.
Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, I have a hard time, maybe just people just don't face challenges in their life, but it's like, if that is one of the things that I see too in my life, is that I can't deny God's existence and the evidence of God, because too many coincidences to count, right? In my life, where I should have been dead, I should have lost, I've definitely learned some hard lessons, but all for my benefit.
Yeah.
All for the greater good. So that leads me to, like, okay, so you've been through all this, you've faced hardship, your business, you even said prior to us coming on, like, it was like after you surrendered, all of a sudden your business seemed to be turning around.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah.
But where's all this led you to where you are right now? Like, what do you have planned for the future?
Yeah. Yeah. So walking through this season of ultimate surrender, and I call it more of a forceful surrender.
Yeah.
Because God knows me. He knows my character and my personality and the way I'm wired. And so he had to kind of like force my business to this place of failure, but he left just enough remnant for me to be able to say, okay, Lord, what do you want to give up? What do I need to give up in order for your will to be done in my life? Because I've been trying to do it my own way. And so he slowly started taking away things that brought me validation. So I grew up in a very, again, a first generation immigrant. My dad was a extreme hard worker, like very hard nosed. And he was very hard, my brother and I, verbally. He was physically abusive, just talked down, negative. And I didn't realize that as I became successful as a business owner, I started getting validation from that, of people saying, oh, wow, you and your brother, they would call us the Montrose brothers, the kings of Montrose. I'm talking about billion-dollar funds telling us they couldn't believe how we literally took 25 grand to 125 million in real estate. Wasn't normal. And so that started puffed up all my pride, and it turned into pride because I started feeding, like, oh, look what I've done, all my validation. And I love seeking that. And so I had to have the car, the house, everything on the outside. So that way people would say, oh, well, my dad, my earthly father, didn't give me that. I had to prove to him that, hey, look, you said all these negative things towards us. And so I needed to get validation from somewhere. And I chose to seek validation outside of Christ, which led to pride in my life. And so God started stripping away these things of identity. And one of them, another one was CrossFit was a big thing in my life. I worked out twice a day. I was an avid CrossFitter, and that was like a thing that I needed. And it brought me my identity of this community belonging. Wow, you're a CrossFitter. When people think of CrossFitters, they think, oh, you're crazy. And so I love that. I love that people thought of me like, oh, you're this crazy, you might be super fit, so forth. And then the third thing kind of led to the idol that had built up around the validation of my home and all those materialistic things that God said, hey, Jerry, I'm walking you through the surrender of your life. And so I want you to surrender your home to me. And so my wife and I, we sold our home here in June of 2025. And God was so awesome because right like 2 weeks after that, the market just like went down. But we sold at the top of the market for top dollar. And he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do it, but he did. And so we sold our home, paid off all of our debt. And because God had kind of said, hey, look, this plan and this path that I have you on of surrender, now is the time for you to eventually church plant and to go into ministry.
So when you were at the top, though, like when you felt like you had it all together, you were peak validation was flowing in. I mean, how hard was it for you to see God?
Yeah, because when you open your online banking, you see your checking account. I'm like, wow, I did that. That's all you think about is I did that, and that's why, like, I'm thankful for the suffering. I'm thankful for the suffering. I believe that if it was not for the financial struggles, the ups and downs of my business, I would have probably walked away from my faith, because there was a season where I was not leaning onto God, and I was trusting my own. Hey, look what I built. Look what I done. I'm self-made man, and all those things that I had spoken to myself. But God, He humbles you. He humbles you as an entrepreneur a lot of times, because everything comes from Him. And so I believe that when I was on the top of the top, I wasn't seeing God. I'm just going to be honest. I wasn't. It was basically, I was going to church and checking boxes. It wasn't like, hey, I checked out completely, but my life was not a life surrendered at all. I was still living my plan out.
That when you went to church, in that mindset, I just got to ask this because it's like I feel like I see this in the church quite a bit, and me being, one of the worst offenders in different times of my life, but like that's you feel like you got validation and like how, look, I'm a self-made man, I'm going to church, and was there a certain image that you felt like you were portraying when you would attend, like, just being like a successful church member, you know what I mean? It's like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think no. I probably didn't get that, like, because I would see, like, oh, because some people automatically associate that's a more of the prosperity type of gospel, right? Hey, yeah, because your life is successful, that means, oh, you must be following the Lord, right? I never got that. Honestly, what I did is I've always been a faithful tither, like always been. And so I always, even like my gross, so I get a commission in, I would actually right then and there, basically, I would tithe off my gross. That was the only part I was 100% like trusting God in. And I did that part, but yet the fruits of my life, the patterns of my Christian walk were dead. I wasn't spending time in the Word. I wasn't praying. My wife and I, we weren't really praying together. We were just basically going to church, and we were just more like this. We were living a dream, because, man, like, my wife didn't come from money. I didn't come from money. And, like, man, we have all the things that surround us that give us the idea, like, we arrived, we made it.
I think I know what you're saying. So you felt like you were, in a way, just kind of going through the motions, just trying to stay obedient, but you didn't really feel a connection.
No depth to it. There was no debt. No.
Yeah. Okay, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, so comparing that mindset then to now, where, I mean, I can say from experience that when you're at the top, it's really hard. I mean, it is really hard to imagine yourself, like, without all that, right? And still, it's hard. But then once you find yourself, in a different position, right? Has your gratitude, I guess, changed? Like, you know what I mean? How's your mindset changed in that sense?
Like now compared?
Yeah, now compared to then, yeah.
Oh, wow. Man, it was just, I guess, first of all, I guess those materialistic things, they don't matter anymore. For sure. They're not the priority. And I guess more of the gratitude is that like it's like, man, I could like my relationship could have with Christ and my relationship with my wife, it could have been completely different, but somehow God was kept me just, even if it was by just a string, even if it was just by a little bit. Hey, he said I was coming to church. I wasn't getting anything out of it. Wasn't really connecting with God, but I kept showing up, and eventually, God knew what He had in the future. He knew the suffering that was going to come through that, and He knew that He was going to put people in my life. We had just started joined a small group, and that was kind of the precipice of the vulnerability that started in my life. It was probably in 2018 where I did have this kind of renaissance finally, after I had experienced this major success in 2015, 2016, 2017. It was, and then now it came to the point where I got connected with a Bible study group, mentorship group from a really well-known developer here in the Woodlands that was an elder at our church, and also getting connected to a community group. My wife and I, at that point, we were isolated. We lived alone. And then I wasn't being surrounding myself with other men in community till, wow, like you start appointing that, not that they were coming like, oh, Jeremy condemning me or like pointing out anything. It's just the way they were living their lives. My life didn't look like that, but yet they had all their success. But yet my spiritual life was not like theirs. And I'll say, okay, God, something must be missing here. My focus is completely on the business and the validation. And it's like, I need to be over here. And so it helped me kind of refocus my direction. So I'm grateful for the community that God kind of brought me in that I didn't even search for.
What would you say is the biggest difference in your attitude? Now, like, he talks a little bit about, so gratitude is a big part, right? But, I guess as that shift happened, you went from being on top, killing this sense of pride, kind of building up that sense of pride, and then do you have, okay, here's another question. I'm sorry. Let's follow up with this, because I was almost about to repeat, I feel like, the same question. But being where you're at right now, going from there, and they were like, what's your biggest fear now?
My biggest fear, that's a good question. Because we've made this decision to go into ministry, full-time ministry, I had this big fear that, okay, God, I've done the big leap. As an entrepreneur, we have to make big leaps of faith, but sometimes the facts don't add up. Okay, we put that, okay, God, I'm going to take this big leap. I feel like this is what you want me to do. But as entrepreneurs, and as I know me personally, it's hard for me to take those baby steps. I can take those big steps, but God said, will you slow down enough to take the little steps with me as I'm walking you through ministry? Because in my mind, I got my 12-month plan. I got my 5-year plan. Okay, 12 months, we're going to go through this training for church planning. And then we're going to start the process of kind of finding the place, location. I got it all basically planned out. But God was like, will you be still and know that I'm God right now, and walk those baby steps with me? And so the fear is that I'm going to be impatient. I'm not going to trust God, and I'm going to want to go ahead of God. And I'm going to try to do things in my own strength, my own understanding. And I'm going to maybe make a misstep and try to force God's hand, because that's what sometimes we do as entrepreneurs. We say, okay, God, I've done this, now bless it. Versus like pray first and then let him open up doors for you to walk in.
Have you ever read or listened to the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry?
Mm-mm.
Definitely recommend you read that. John Mark Comer. It's an excellent book. When I was kind of going through my crisis, I listened to that book. I was just taking morning walks just to start the day because I didn't know what else to do. But, I was trying to get my head wrapped around the day. It was a struggle every single day. I listened to that book, man, and it got me into a mindset where I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the longest line in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to, like, what am I in a hurry for?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I need to find the shortest line or find the fastest path out of here? Like, what am I trying to get to? And just started exercising that patience, right? And it was amazing, actually, the impact that it had on my life. I need to start doing that again because, I started to slowly drift away.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question do you fear at all drifting in this journey? Like, do you ever fear that, I've had such an impactful experience and I can see God's is so strong and so evident in my life right now. Do you ever worry about that drifting at all?
Yeah, that's natural. As humans, we are natural drifters. That's why they even put those little bumps on the side of the roads where we're going down 45 or I-10 because hey, we're prone. Hey, when we get tired, we drift. And so, but I think the blocks, the bumps that God puts in our road is our daily rhythm of our spiritual life. And that is the thing that kind of keeps me directed basically on God's path is waking up and having that unhurried time with the Lord. I remember I was never a morning person. Like I was a guy, I had to get my 8 hours, but I'd probably maybe wake up at 7. But now through the encouragement and just seeing our pastor, at Woods Edge, he talks about unhurried time with God. He even wrote a book about it. Waking up, like he wakes up like 4 a.m. I secretly waking up, okay, Lord, I wake up at 5:30 and I'll have this unhurried time. And the cool thing is my wife and I, we both do it together. This is a journey that we started 2 years ago when we were kind of going through a crisis. She was having some health crisis in her life. And so, okay, Lord, I'm going to neglect some sleep in my life because I'm desperate. We need healing for my wife and some things that she was going on in her body. And so we started spending time in the Word. We joined Regen as well and started doing our Regen work. And then we also have prayer time together where my wife journals all of our prayers. She has like literally this much of journals of just prayers. And we get to look back and see the faithfulness of God. But that is a pattern, a rhythm that we have implemented in the last 2 years that I believe will keep us that daily renewing of our mind. That is so important because it is easy. Like right now, like I told you earlier, like my business is turning around. Like things are actually going good. I'm actually paying myself again and taking distributions. And the trick would be, okay, Jim, well, maybe you can put the ministry stuff on the back burner. But no, God is like almost like when someone who is like my dad was an alcoholic, and when he got saved and born again, he told me that God removed the taste of alcohol from his lips. He no longer desired it or wanted it anymore. And that doesn't mean that's for everybody. Some people, they still have that struggle, but that's how it works for my dad. And I believe that that's what God has done in my life. Due to surrender, he has almost removed the taste of this materialistic success that I used to crave, I used to desire, and that I don't want those things. I don't care about those. Those things are no longer important to me. That God is what's the most important. He is the center of my life, and he is the one that I'm like sold out after. And he's the thing that ultimately is going to satisfy me and be my daily bread that I'm taking in every day. And I'm basically following him and not like worrying about, okay, the business is going good. I'm paying, things are flowing well. And so now like, oh, maybe I'll just, okay, put that on side. But I know God has me on a path of renewing my mind and getting those rhythms to keep me focused on what he has next in ministry.
Yeah. So that rhythm you're talking about, that routine that you go through on a daily basis, I mean, would you say that's probably the most crucial part of the day? Dude, so like for you to stay on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. someone told me that, the busier your life gets, the more time you've got to spend with God. Like, you have to keep it proportional.
Yeah.
And even when you're doing church and groups and things like that, I mean, I was doing so many groups, I didn't feel like I had enough time with just me and God.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing all this book work and I'm in all these discussions, but I'm starting to feel empty because it's all output. There was no input.
Yeah.
Who's like, it wasn't filling the tank.
Yeah.
Man, it's really encouraging to hear that. It even encourages me in my own walk. I mean, I'm no stranger to drifting, and for me, that was like my biggest fear. That's why I asked that question. Is like, my biggest fear was, man, I don't want to lose this connection.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose this connection, and I am one to sometimes, step out of my routine and go in different directions. But it's a good reminder to stay with it. Stay with it, or at least get back on track. So I appreciate that. So what's the plan for this this plan for your ministry journey? Like, what is your ultimate goal?
Church planning is the kind of ultimate goal. And
anywhere in particular you're looking at, or you just like wherever God takes you? Or
we're honestly, man, we're in a place wherever God takes us. So God has revealed the people, so the type of people, so Gen Z, like young married, urban city. These are all the urban city, and probably the Gen Z or something like that. Like, freaks my wife out because we grew up, we lived in the city for a while. And not even Houston. God's not giving me clear. I'm born and raised in Houston. I always thought I would church plant in Houston, but he's not making that's the city he's calling me to. And so being in the city, like, it's another thing outside of our comfort zone. And I know God always calls us out of our comfort zones. And so I just have this heart, man, for the generation of just, it's so impacted by the mental health crisis that is going on in our generation. It is so big, and God is giving me this calling to, like, just go to the lost, the broken, the hurting, those that basically have built their life basically on this foundation that the world that says, hey, this is how you build your life. You build it on career, you build it on stacks and so forth. But God says in his word, you built your life upon him, Jesus Christ, the cornerstone, the solid rock, and you build your life on that. And that's when God basically shows up, and you can see him in miraculous ways. And so he's given me kind of the people, the name, Foundation Church will be the name of the church, but it has not given me the actual place. And that's the journey right now. I'm involved in two cohorts. One is through Woods Edge that just launched this past Saturday, that we're going through with some other couples that have a calling for church planning. And then through Houston Church Planning Network, they have their own foundational cohort that they meet once a month. And I'm going there. I'm a person that, being so prideful, over the last year, God has revealed that to me, that I need to be around other men, other wise counsel, that I can't figure it out. As a business owner, we think, oh, I don't want to share my trade secrets. I don't want to be, I won't gain anything because I somehow know everything. I have all the knowledge. Or today's day, I just go ask ChatGPT and it'll give me everything I knew and need to know about an issue. And there's a reason why, like God told Moses, like, hey, you can't do this alone. You need to bring up people around you, elders, to help you lead my people. You cannot do this alone. And so that's why I meet with mentors and elders at our church on a bi-weekly basis. They're basically walking me through, and they all have a kind of a little bit different thing that they are kind of walking me through. And so that's kind of the more practical steps that we're going to walk through this next year. But then also God has put this heart also for missions. And we have been praying, like, Lord, what do you want us to do next? Well, one of our community pastors reached out to us, my wife and I, and said, hey, would you guys be pray about coming on a mission trip, a short-term mission trip to Sri Lanka? And so we're actually headed to Sri Lanka here in 2 months to go there and to see, Lord, with Compassionate International and For All Mankind movement, that we're going to be able to share the gospel to unreached people groups that honestly, I surround myself with believers pretty much all day, and I never really get an opportunity to exercise that gift and that ultimate calling that Christ had put on all of us as believers to go out and to make disciples. And so we're excited to see what God's going to do here in a couple months. And yeah, the next, obviously, year of our life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is your attitude toward discomfort now versus what it was when you felt like you were on top of the world with your finances and everything else?
I'm just a changed man. I am, dude. My life is, there's this part of Regen, of course, you say, I have a new life in Christ.
Yeah.
And I have my commencement coming up here in like about 2 months. And I feel like I'm literally going to stand. People say that all the time. I can literally stand here and say my life is completely transformed. And I have a new life in Christ.
Yeah.
And I will have that. And I feel that and I believe that in my life. I have a sense of peace and joy that I have never had all the years of being a business owner.
Yeah. No, yeah. I completely know the feeling you're talking about.
Yeah.
A feeling of complete satisfaction on not needing anything more.
Yeah.
Right. I asked that question because you mentioned like being, you know that going out, planting a church and all that, God kind of calls us to places that are not comfortable, that are outside of our comfort zone. And I would say that I'll answer the question for myself as well as, I was afraid of discomfort when at my best, when I'm up there, afraid of losing what I gained and all of that. But when I found that peace with God, it was like I was looking for discomfort. Yeah. I'm like, look, I need another challenge to come because God's going to call me to persevere through that. And then I'm going to overcome that challenge with God's help. And then God's going to prepare me for a new one.
Yes.
It doesn't ever stop.
Nope.
Doesn't ever stop. It's just all about your mindset and how you engage with it, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's what I love when Jesus says he's come to give us life and life abundantly. We think of discomfort is not abundant life. Right. It's like the opposite because that's what the world has told us.
Embrace it.
Yeah, but when you embrace it, it's hard. Like it's hard in our human.
It's like, let's see you work, God. Like, let's see you do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm excited to see more evidence of you in my life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how you build faith.
Yes.
You continue to see the evidence of God in your life over and over and over again, And
it's like the Bible says he takes us from glory to glory.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, like we get the opportunity of every year, every challenge to grow our faith, to help us with our unbelief. Right. So that way, like, I believe that God made me an entrepreneur, put that inside of me that my family didn't come from entrepreneur. Our brother and I are not from entrepreneurs. He had a design purpose of training my faith through all those 15 years to get to this point.
Right.
To say, hey, now I'm going to trust you in my ministry. You've built your own business that I've been a part of. Now I'm going to have you use that same faith that you are able to exercise and grow. Now you're going to do it basically for my kingdom. And I know it's going to be so much better because it's one thing when like you are in the driver's seat and you allow God to be in the driver's seat. It's like all the pressure's off, Lord.
Right.
Like I don't have to now like, hey, if you want me to do this, it's on you now, God.
Right.
Like even the guy who's our ministry coordinator, we have to raise support for our trip. And he said that if God has called you to this trip, now God is obligated to financially help you raise the support for this trip. And it's like the same thing in ministry. Like, hey, God, if you called my wife and I to church plant, we know that you're going to provide whatever we need because you called it to do it. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be easy, but it's on you now. The pressure is off me.
Right. Yeah, it's time to see you work.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, thank you for coming in and being vulnerable and being so honest about your journey and everything that's happened. I know it's not easy to open up your life, especially off kind of to the public.
Yeah.
But it's evident that your authenticity is evident. What you've been through is evident, and I really appreciate that. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to other entrepreneurs that, I mean, they don't, some people that watch us, they don't have faith or, but I mean, just in general, if you had a piece of advice to anyone that's in a tough position where they just need to make a move or make a change or do something to get out of a rut, what would it be?
It would be that you can ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It's like the teacher says all the time that there's nothing as a dumb question. That there is more brotherhood and sisterhood in being an entrepreneur than people realize, because they know, as another entrepreneur to another entrepreneur, they know that you're in the thick of it. It is not easy. And so being able to say, hey, I don't have it, I don't know what I'm going to do in this situation, and being willing to come to that place where I'm going to reach out, doesn't mean that it needs to be someone with a spiritual background to give you some spiritual advice. But no, just someone in your industry, somebody who has been doing it longer than you have, to get some advice and talk to them. And you'd be surprised that there are people out there are willing to say, yes, I'll take you on and I'll be your mentor and I'll help you through this kind of challenge. Because I think more of our country, we have literally lived our lives that we lived it hidden behind this mask that somehow, like this, as us as a country, that we have it all together.
Right.
And we really don't. We really don't. Like we're humans. Like we're flawed people. We're broken people because we live unfortunately in a broken world. And this idea of like perfectionism and like that we got it made and we got to figure it out. That is something this country needs to break down in order for us to bring about real change.
And that could said that better myself. So I mean, yeah, the message here is it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to have it all together. None of us do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, none of us. No one. Yeah, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? There's always something. Well, with that, we're going to close. Jerry, again, thanks for coming on. If you need to find us, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you can get your podcasts, YouTube. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.